Focus on me. Hey, hi, hello. My name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, welcome. I'd really appreciate it if you guys subscribe. It really helps me. Anyways, so today I'm going to be answering a lot of questions that I've been getting. Mainly in my DMs on Instagram, and if you don't have my Instagram, I'll link it down below, or I'll put my name. But a lot of you guys have been asking me a lot of questions about the college application and scholarship process, so I'm just gonna try to do my best to answer them. And a lot of these questions are kind of repeated, so I'm just gonna answer them once. If you see me looking out there, my window's open and I can feel people like looking. So, and don't mind my case, it's like falling apart and I keep important stuff in here, so I just put tape, but it's coming in today, so it won't be like this forever. Okay, so the first question is, I'm really confused about the whole scholarship and college process. When do I start? Now. Should I be keeping track of the scholarships I apply for? Yes, that would be a smart thing to do. Yes, you should be keeping track, because why wouldn't you want to know when the deadline is or when the announcements come out of who won the scholarship? Like, you should always be on top of that and know when or around what time you should be expecting an email or a phone call from a scholarship. Like, that's a smart thing to do. Okay. When you apply to these schools, what major... Oh, the AC just turned on. My AC is broken this summer. Like, I feel like it's just a ritual that my AC breaks every summer, because this is ridiculous. And it's so hot right now, and I'm wearing a long sleeve, but I look cute, so I'm gonna suffer. Okay, when you applied to schools, what major were you mainly applying for? I changed it every school. I just went through the list of majors that they had, and whatever interested me at the time, I applied to. Like, I know I did like biology for one, and then I did like business, and then I did accounting. I did a whole bunch of stuff. I had a whole lot of phases of what I thought I was going to do, and I still don't really know now, but I'm figuring it out. So just go through the majors, because not every school offers the same major, and see what really speaks to you at the time and what you can write your essay about. What career prospects do you hope to pursue after college? I don't really know. I'm trying to figure it out. I think I want to do something related to cognitive science right now. But I don't know, I can see myself doing something in biology or biomedicine, because biology is interesting, but it's a lot of work. It is very rigorous. But I can really see myself doing it. But then again, the social sciences are a lot more interesting to me, like studying people and like basically sociology. But then it all stems back to cognitive science. So I don't really know. I don't know. What website form did you use to apply for scholarships? I didn't use a lot of websites. I started off with Unigo and FastWeb. I hated it because I never won, and not a lot of people are going to win because everybody used those websites. So just look out for the big corporations when they release scholarships, and tune in for more videos, because I'll be putting you on. What were your stats? If y'all really want to know my stats, comment and like this video, and then I'll do another video on it, because that, like, talking about my stats is a whole other video in itself. I'll do that when I get 1K subscribers. And did you apply early to any schools? I didn't apply early to any schools that you guys care about, honestly, because you only care about prestigious schools, most of you. But schools that I did apply early to were mainly my state schools, and I think I did Howard early. And a lot of people, I recommend everybody apply to Howard early. So I did Howard, which is University of Miami. Yeah. Do you have any suggestions for the Coca-Cola scholarship and the Jackie Robinson scholarship? And because they ask you a lot about freshman and sophomore year involvement, however, I wasn't as involved then, do you think that will affect me tremendously? I mean, I can't tell you. I'm not the one grading. I'm not the one who's going to be looking at your application. I mean, I could only speak for myself. I did a lot throughout my high school career, but I definitely did do more as the years went on. So just apply. Like, don't try to count yourself out based on what you think the ideal applicant is going to be. Just apply. And seeking validation from people who've been there before is not going to help you, I promise you, because I was in that position and I was like, how do they know more than me? They were in my position, so why am I asking them like specific stuff like that? Because the application pool changes every year for what they're looking in this scholarship and a college applicant, and these processes are really subjective. So one person could read your application and say, wow, this is somebody who I really feel like really embodies and represents what our foundation or our scholarship applicants stand for. And then another person could be like, I'm not really feeling it. So you just gotta pray or just hope that whoever gets your application, what you write really resonates with them and they see potential in you. Do you know any scholarships that I can apply to so I can get as much money as possible for college? Again, look out for my videos. I have another video up already on 6 scholarships you must apply to. They're really big and I really feel like there's one in that video for everybody. And I also said that I'm going to try to look for more for people who are in the country and don't have the necessary documentation to qualify for a lot of these scholarships or have extenuating circumstances. Hi. I was considering going to Princeton since like freshman year, and I was wondering if you had any tips for my acceptance. Again, I'm not the application reader. I'm not the person who's going to dictate whether you get in or not. So seeking validation from me is really not going to do anything for you. But I would just say apply. My tip is to apply and put your heart into it, and your passion will really show through your application if you really wanted to go there for as long as you stay. And just make sure you know as much about the university as you really want to if you genuinely want to go there, because they like to see people going that extra mile to show how much they really love and want to be a part of an institution. Make sure that you're doing what you have to do, doing what you want to do, because don't go doing everything, like doing every club and starting random organizations that you have no passion for and doesn't really correlate with your values and what you perpetuate as an applicant. Makes no sense. You're just gonna look like you don't commit to anything. So just make sure your application as a whole is interrelated and that your passion really seeps through when you do have the chance to talk about it in your essays. The last question for this video is, can you do a video or speak on affirmative action and your thoughts, please? I've gotten like 3 questions like this. So I do have quite a bit to say about this. Mainly because a lot of people automatically see like I got into some prestigious schools and they automatically attribute my success to affirmative action. Like, you're just invalidating everything that I've done, not only for myself in terms of academics and my community and just who I am as a person, and attributing it to my race. And then I hate when people say that I took somebody else's place. No, I didn't. I took a spot that was there for me. That's why I got accepted to that school, and that's why I'm going to one of these schools. So to sit here and say that I and black people in general, because black people are mainly the minority who is targeted whenever people say, oh, you don't deserve to be there or you took somebody else's place. But to say that I took somebody else's place is absurd, because if they deserve the place at the table, they would be there. Point blank, period. There are people to say that black applicants in general are unqualified. You cannot put a blanket term and just generalize an entire demographic because of your preconceived biases and your preconceived notions about what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to know. You didn't even ask me about what I've done for my community or any of my interests. You just saw my skin color and automatically dictated from your high seat that I do not deserve to be here, when I clearly do. The person who read my application thought that I deserved to be here. The head of the people who read applications thought that I deserved to be here, because you go through a rigorous process where they stack up the people who they think should be at the school, and then they pass it to a higher up, and then they deliberate on it again. So I clearly deserve to be here, and for you to sit here and try to invalidate that and try to say that I don't because I took somebody else's spot because I'm unqualified is absurd. It's just ridiculous to honestly say that I'm taking somebody's space at the table when I and my people are generally make up the smallest percentage and take out the least amount of space at these prestigious places. And there's another thing that a lot of people say, that it's a lot harder for Asian Americans to get in to these schools and that black people are unjustly taking up space at the table. out of all of the people of color at these institutions, which are generally 50%, it's like usually 50 to 60% white, and then the rest is minorities. Asian Americans are continuously, they make up the highest percentage of the minorities at these Ivy League institutions. And I'm going to use Ivy League because I don't know all the facts for all of the top 20 in prestigious schools, so I'm just going to use the one that pertains to me. So I looked up the class profiles for the past 5 years, and Asian Americans have continuously made up the vast majority. And class of 2021 is no exception. I know that they don't generally have the statistics for 2022 until we're immersed in college, but class of 2021, at every single Ivy League institution, it was at least 20% Asian American. So 20% of that 50% of people of color were Asians, and blacks were generally the closest to being, or the least amount of minority there. So I don't understand how I am possibly taking up somebody's space at the table, somebody's position. I did not take anybody's position. If they deserve to be there, they would be there. And I don't feel like it's fair for somebody to take out their aggression and their anger at not being able to get into these schools out on somebody else who generally deserves to be there. I'm not to blame because you're not here. That's a personal problem, and if you deserve to be there, you would be there. And I feel like a lot of people are just taking this as an opportunity to take out their pent-up aggression on somebody else. They want to blame everybody but themselves. Not getting into these schools is not something that you should necessarily feel ashamed about. Everything happens for a reason. You're not meant to be here now, or you're just not meant to be here in general. Who's here? Who are you to say that you're automatically not going to be successful because you're not at these spaces? You can be successful anywhere you want to be if you put your mind to it, and you could come to these spaces, the prestigious spaces, and not amount to anything at all, because you don't capitalize on the opportunity. It's about who you know, how you network, and how you do what you do. As long as you do what you do well, and you network and you capitalize on every opportunity that comes your way, you're going to be successful. So going to an Ivy or going wherever else is not gonna hinder you from being as successful as you want to be, but race can. But that's a discussion for another day. And I just wanted to bring up an analogy. I feel like the Asian American versus blacks in the affirmative action suit is really related to track, and I just wanted to put it in perspective by saying that Asian Americans are being discriminated against and have their spots unjustly taken up by black people is like saying that, okay, everybody knows that Jamaicans are generally one of the fastest nations in the world. So say I am running at the Olympic trials to try and compete for my country in the Olympics. So I run a 12:3, and for a woman, which is pretty fast, but on the global scale, it's not as fast as it needs to be. But in some nations, it could be. So I'm running for Jamaica, and I finish 8th. So I don't qualify, because top 4 qualify to go on to the next round to be able to run at the Olympics. So I run a 12:3, and the winner runs an 11:8, and then an 11:9 is second place, so on and so forth. So I come last. But the winner for France's, let's just say, I'm just throwing out another country. The winner for France's Olympic trials runs a 12:4. I ran faster than them, but they got to be in the Olympics. Now I'm blaming them and saying they took up my spot at the table, which is not the case. First of all, there's not one set caricature that each Ivy League applicant has to adhere to. How are we ever going to progress and be able to learn if there's no diversity? You guys are looking at the mid-range and expecting everybody to be complicit with what the mid-range says. It's a mid-range. In a mid-range, people are going to be above and below. And you can't just dictate what everybody can contribute to an institution at the value that they hold simply based on a statistic or a number. Because opportunity is everywhere, and it's just up to you to capitalize on it. So your opportunity and your destiny might not be in these prestigious places, but you shouldn't discount the fact that for somebody else it is. Like, everybody in life is not going to have the same success, and if that was the case, everybody would be going to the same school, doing the same major, doing the same job. Life would be so boring. Everybody goes to different places and they have different stories to tell and different things to contribute to the world. So if yours doesn't stem or start or doesn't entail being at an Ivy League institution, so be it. Like, when I didn't get into Yale, when I didn't get into Harvard, I was like, okay, like, on to the next. Like, that's not for me. I accepted that that's not a part of my destiny. I could go there for grad school. Who knows? Or I could go somewhere else for grad school. I just accepted that that's not part of my journey. It's not supposed to be part of my journey. If it was, I would have gotten it. But you don't see me blaming my friend who got into Yale. Oh my gosh, she took my place. No, I'm supposed to be in there. No, I'm happy for her. I'm happy for myself, and I'm happy for everybody else, because everything happens for a reason. Like their SAT score, ACT score, their GPA. You didn't ask them about their community involvement or any of the innovative ideas that they have. They might have created an app. They might have started their own nonprofit organization that is nationally renowned and has a lot of credentials. You have to understand that everybody brings something different. And if everybody at a school simply has a 1600 SAT and ACT, a perfect score on the SAT subject test, then what fun is it going to be? How are you going to be able to debate? Because of course you're going to have opposing values and ideas all the time, but you could have so much more when you bring in people with different cultural experiences because of not only their race but where they've grown up. And I feel like if you eliminate affirmative action, you really take out a big piece of what these Ivy League institutions are supposed to do, which is sculpt you into a well-rounded person who is able to see varying opinions and have diplomatic discussion about it, because you're going to be surrounded by like-minded people. You're going to be surrounded by robots who are just do everything by the book. You're never going to have somebody who draws outside of the lines and can bring a really creative element, because everybody has the same experiences and everybody's probably going to be, you know, have gone to a prep school, comes from money. So how are you ever going to be able to discuss issues on poverty if nobody can speak on behalf of that? Or not even just from poverty, but speak on being from an area where not a lot of people even know about. Because if that was the case, if there was no affirmative action, then people who come from a lot smaller places that a lot of people don't know about might not even get to go there, because everybody would be from, I don't know, California, where it's generally a larger state and a lot of people have money. I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm just throwing out examples. But just to sum it up, the application process is extremely holistic. So to say that somebody, or just assume off the bat that somebody doesn't have the credentials that they need to be in a space is absurd. You didn't even ask them about their test scores and if they deserve to be there. And test scores are not a defining factor dictating whether somebody deserves to be at an institution or not, because the process is holistic. It's holistic. It's more than just your test scores. And that's why somebody with a perfect score might not get in, but somebody without a perfect score may get in, because they're generally more well-rounded, or they said something or proved something on their application that really caught the reviewer's eyes, and they felt that they could be a really vital asset to an institution, as opposed to somebody who just did everything by the book and was completely perfect on paper. I also wanted to say that a lot of people don't know that white women are the main beneficiaries of affirmative action, even though that's not something that you think about, because everybody thinks of affirmative action as a monolith, like it only applies to black people, which it doesn't. It applies to minorities in general, but it benefits white women more, and not necessarily in the application process, but in life in general. Because after leaving these prestigious spaces, because it's not enough to just go to an Ivy League, it's what you do with your education and what you do after that honestly matters. This is just a stepping stone, because a lot of some people may get in with affirmative action, but who says that they have the resources and the necessary help to even thrive at these places which they probably haven't been exposed to in the first place, because they come from a school which is reflective of their socioeconomic background. So how are they supposed to know how to immerse themselves in a place where people go on yacht parties every single weekend for fun? So you can't just throw somebody in a pit of opportunity and expect them to swim when they haven't been accustomed or exposed to something like this in the first place. So it's not enough to just get there. It's really what you do after. Back to white women. When we go out, and I'm going to speak for black people because I'm black, but minorities in general, but specifically black people, when we go out into the world, we're still living in a society plagued with systematic oppression and racial biases. So I could be the quote-unquote perfect applicant who's diverse, who has a lot to offer, and who has the credentials, but won't necessarily get the opportunity simply because of the color of my skin. And that's just the sad reality of the world that we live in today. And this is something that Hispanics face, Asians face, and a lot of other demographic minorities face, but specifically black people. And you can tell just by the racial climate of our nation today and in the world in general, but specifically America, because we got a lot of wild stuff going on. So, and white women who have this education are often at a really unfair advantage, because if I were to go for a position with a white person, I would have to be literally 10 times better to even be considered for the opportunity, when somebody who is mediocre in comparison to a minority might just get it because of the employer's preconceived biases. And that's a fact. And if you're not a minority, I don't feel like you could attest to that, but you know, people are going to say what they want to say at the end of the day. And I just wanted to go back and bring some statistics, because everybody's going to try and bring their falsified statistics and platitudes about affirmative action in. But according to the kidscountdatacenter.org, they reported that within the last 10 years, black children have been the most impoverished minority by at least 20%, might I add, in comparison to their Asian and Pacific Islander counterparts. So you know what that means? That means that people my age and even younger are sitting in schools that are generally underfunded, don't have access to the private tutors, don't have access to SAT and ACT prep books that cost $100 to do well on these exams, and you use it as a benchmark to dictate whether this person, this minority, specifically black children, use it as a benchmark to dictate whether or not they deserve to be in that space, without taking into account the fact that they may not eat every time that they go home, the fact that they might not have the money for clothes that they need to, the fact that they might be living in a society that is ridden with gun violence. They may not have both parents in their household, and all of these things take an immense toll on their subconscious, and that transcends into how they perform in school and how they can perform on these standardized tests, which don't necessarily dictate their IQ level or their knowledge, but instead dictate how prepared they are to have a college education. So if they don't have the resources and the necessary teaching and have an amazing teacher who exposes them to the opportunities and scholarships available to them, how are they supposed to perform well on this test? They're obviously not as well prepared for college because of their extenuating circumstances. And that's why I feel like affirmative action is pivotal to making sure that these Ivy League spaces, which are not diverse, how can it be diverse if I am most likely going to be the only black girl or one or two black people in my class? How is that diverse? But anyways, I digress. I lost my train of thought after I said that, but at the end of the day, my voice is croaking. At the end of the day, you cannot use this test as a benchmark to hold these kids accountable to and dictate whether they deserve to be in a prestigious place or not. If they proved it in the application process that they deserve to be there, they do not have to prove it to you. And it's not fair that a lot of people take out their anger on those who are in these spaces and automatically dictate that they deserve to be there or not. Who are you to say that? Because if that decision was left up to you, you would be in that boardroom deciding, and not on the internet trolling and leaving comments on people's application decision reactions talking about they don't deserve to be there because of affirmative action. You can't be mad at me that I'm going here and somebody that you know is not. I did not take their place. They didn't earn their place. Boom. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope I really just shed light on the fact that extenuating circumstances really do play a big part on how a lot of demographics, specifically minorities, perform on these tests. So you have to take into account that not everybody has the same socioeconomic status as you, and not everybody has the same opportunity. Thanks. And if you didn't get in for a reason, you shouldn't sit here and try to blame everybody but yourself. At the end of the day, you're the one who submitted the application, so it's only up to you. It's like going, I'm gonna relate everything back to track, but it's like running a race and you come second and to Usain Bolt, and you want to blame Usain Bolt for winning. Like, you can't blame him. All you could do is try to get faster or accept the fact that you came second and you might have PR'd. And you're just disregarding that because you're trying to chase somebody else's success. You are your own person, so you cannot constantly compare yourself to somebody else and then attribute all of your failures to other people. And not getting into these prestigious places is not necessarily a failure, because